Just as I was getting ready to put this video out, I noticed that Kit and Christa did an additional update on their channel explaining their logic on the Switch successor announcement not being this week, or at least probably not being this week. Now, this video is really worth a look. It's very concise and well thought out from people with deep experience of launching consoles at Nintendo, including the Nintendo Switch itself. I mention this partly because everybody watching this channel would, I'm sure, enjoy it, and I'll link it below, but also because this video that I'm producing now kind of piggybacks effectively off one of their last talking points, which is the predominance of the US election on the media landscape. However, this video that I'm doing is about a different political element which will also be majorly affecting Nintendo's thinking, that being the Japanese election, which recently concluded in a manner that has led to some controversy. So look, to be clear, I put the chances of a reveal for the console this week at max 30%, as I said in a previous video, and I stick by that. But irrespective, if and when a console will release is planned significantly far in advance, and that means that very little could really be done to majorly change course. I mean, changing the precise day or even the week within a range, sure, but this late on, I'm not sure I buy that they have months of flexibility, setting aside of course that they have promised a reveal in a window that is now only 5 months wide, that being by the end of March. The sheer number of moving parts for Nintendo to consider, suppliers, manufacturers, assembly, transport, retailers, development partners, advertisers and so on, make it not just an absolutely vast endeavour, but one that will require months of careful planning and calculation. Therefore, I do not expect anything I'm going to discuss in this video to play into the broader probabilities of when an announcement will come. Whether they want to reveal this week or next year, they are by now probably going to be locked into their broad plans, if not the absolute specifics. But there is more to Nintendo's planning than just the announcement date, and the broader economy of Japan, an economy which is often informed by the state of its politics, is of relevance to them. Remember, they themselves always identify their biggest risk as currency fluctuations, given their high reliance on international sales. Things like their prices will be determined and locked in by their view of what price the market can sustain and also the state of the economy can permit. So it's worth us having a weather eye on all of this stuff irrespective of the current situation. Although more than ever, you can see that all of these things are up in the air because of the results of the Japanese snap general election. Despite its rather high turnover of prime ministers, Japanese politics isn't known for its instability, with the ruling Liberal Democratic Party long dominating the political scene with only very brief spells out of office since the war. But the new Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba's decision to call a snap election may have backfired, as his ruling party has lost its majority in what he himself has described as a severe judgment on the party's recent history of scandal, notably around party funding. Indeed, people are openly speculating that only weeks after taking the job, Ishiba could be exiting it, or at least staying in place only as a caretaker. Now, this doesn't mean there will be a change in ruling party anytime soon. Although it's a minority government, the other parties are extremely diverse in terms of their politics and are unable to form any kind of meaningful coalition with each other. Therefore, the LDP will need to form a coalition arrangement with some of the other smaller parties besides the smaller Komeito party, which has supported it recently, in order to bolster its position. This may be uncomfortable for a party which has become accustomed to untrammeled freedom to act as it wishes, but it is not existential. The country's second most successful party, the Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan, was formed in 2017 from a merger of two smaller parties and remains a long way from office on the current electoral maths. So that's the politics, but what of the economy of the country? The yen has weakened sharply following the resulting uncertainty from the election. It's not yet returned to its weakest point as it was over the summer, but it certainly unwound some of the attempts to strengthen the currency that the government and the Bank of Japan have been putting in place. Indeed, while it seems likely that the LDP's run of scandals was a more proximate cause of the party's setback, it can't be counted out that the economy could have been a big factor as well. The BBC quotes a Japanese shopper as saying, "I pay 10,000 yen or 20,000 yen which is roughly $65 to $130 or £50 to £100, more for the food per month than I used to. And I'm not buying the things I used to buy. I am trying to save up, but it still costs more. Things like fruit are very expensive. Ishiba-san had long been hawkish on strengthening the Japanese yen, suggesting that 110 to 140 yen per dollar was an appropriate level, a stronger value to the yen than has been evident through much of 2024, with it passing 160 yen to the dollar in July. Barclays head of Japan Foreign Exchange and Rate Strategy, Kadota Shinichiro, is quoted by NHK as saying that Satoru Ishiba was the most hawkish of the candidates in the LDP election, but he is now striking a dovish tone, presumably driven by the yen appreciation and equity sell-off following his election as LDP president. This also follows his comments that, in his words, personally, he didn't feel an interest hike was necessary, even though, of course, it was not for the government to tell the independent Japanese central bank what to do. Heaven forfend that a government minister would ever try to influence economics. Well, it looks like the Prime Minister may get his wish. The Bank of Japan is meeting this week to set interest rates, and reports from Reuters and others suggest that it is unlikely to move from its still historically incredibly low interest rates. Also, as we are seeing, the bank's own inflation target of 2% seems to be being met. Reuters notes an intensifying labour shortage is also heightening expectations that companies will continue to hike pay next year, say 3 sources familiar with the Bank of Japan's thinking. Japan's economy is on track for recovery, one of the sources said. Prices will likely keep rising as many companies have yet to fully pass on rising costs, another source said. Of course, things could look a lot different even a week from now, with the American elections also taking place. But while the US dollar is a useful benchmark for the yen, and the US does represent Japan's second highest trading partner, with just over 10% of Japanese imports coming from America, that number is dwarfed by the amount Japan receives from China, who provide 22% of its import sources, and of course all the other countries provide the rest, notably Australia with 8.58%. So what is the Nintendo part of all this? Well, a weak yen is great news for the company as a rule. The money spent on games around the world translates to more yen in their Japanese bank accounts. Of course, Nintendo have many ways of managing currency risk, so while a weak yen is their preferred option, the next best option is stability, so they can plan, and actually if the horses have been frightened a bit, Nintendo might not be too sad. By now it seems inconceivable that they won't have locked in arrangements for most of their manufacturing plans, almost irrespective of when the new console is coming out. They just need those prices to remain stable, since a weaker yen would incur additional costs to their foreign manufacturing. What of price? What kind of price will they charge for the next system? Well, there are 2 competing factors that they will need to consider. 1, there is what the market will bear. 2, there is what the company can make work. The fact is that with wages increasing, often at government request, many companies will be raising prices to cover costs. Nintendo therefore has the cover to increase prices, although it will still risk some pushback. Of course, the high cost of component parts may also be an issue, and again, the weak yen makes it tricky from a manufacturing point of view. Would Nintendo feel that as long as the yen continues on its current course, they can use increased international profits to offset domestic costs? There's not very much leeway for that, though, because these days customers are very savvy and able to use the internet to order from abroad, so there's not an option as there once was to price differently in different markets. Especially in an at least moderately inflationary environment, I still don't see Nintendo, as they would see it, underpricing their next hardware, and that's even before you consider other long-term risks around manufacturing. But they may not need to finalise this decision for a while. They didn't announce the price of Nintendo Switch until the 13th of January 2017, a mere 7 weeks before the console launched. I'm not saying they decided it at that point, of course. They will have known the price point they were looking at for a very long time, but I am sure Nintendo will try to leave their options open for as long as possible, and with a strong possibility that Ishiba will be replaced, with the possibility of another election to try to secure a majority, which could have a very open range of potential consequences. An awful lot could change in the Japanese political scene, and that's before you consider the international market as well. And any kind of arrangement which promotes some kind of stability might naturally lead to the yen having something of a rebound in any event. Meanwhile, if the opposition Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan does make further gains and even can secure a majority in a future election, they may be much more cautious about rate increases, suggesting that rather than a 2% target, the target should simply be exceeding 0. Therefore, a weak yen could persist in the future, and while there may be other issues that would affect Nintendo's thinking, that much at least could be quite good news for the company. For more forecasts focusing on the financial aspects of Nintendo, do check out the playlist above. I also appreciate those people who have supported the channel on Patreon, and everybody who likes, comments, shares and subscribes. Thanks as ever, and I will see you next time for another Nintendo forecast.